everyone. Welcome to Food for Thought Friday. I'm Allie, the Director of Community of Champions. As most of you know, Community of Champions is an advocacy program funded by the Governor's Council on Developmental Disabilities and powered through Friendship Community Care. Our mission is to turn every Arkansan into an advocate, either for themselves or each other. Most of us in the disability advocacy movement understand if you are going to be a strong advocate, you have to have strong resources. And what we want to do is make sure that we can give you the resources that is going to nourish your mind, just like you give food to your body that makes you strong and healthy. So today we have a very special guest that's going to make sure that gives us powerful knowledge. Just like the old saying goes, knowledge is power, and he's going to be here to make sure that we can be the strongest advocate that we can be. Hi, Christian. Thanks for being here with us.
Hi.
How have you been during all this craziness?
I've been fine. I've been getting through mostly. It's just, trying to keep to a schedule and not sleep till noon every day, basically.
That's pretty hard right now, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes.
Well, I really appreciate you being here with our first Food for Thought Friday. It's really important to me to bring resources to all of our champions and all of our up and coming champions. This isn't the first time you've let me rope you into something, one of my new ideas. So I always appreciate you being here with us. This isn't the first time that you have been a partner with Community of Champions, bringing information about voting.
No, I've come and talked to several rooms full of people.
Yes.
Champion.
Yes, the Advocacy Takes Action mock votes. We have spoken to over 500 people in total, I think, about the process of voting. So we really appreciate you doing that. You have been with disability rights since 2013, and right now you are currently working on voter rights issues and the 2020 census.
Yes.
Wonderful. But you've worked on just a variety of issues that are there with disability rights that they cover, correct?
Yeah, I've done kind of a little bit of everything there.
We are actually going to have someone from disability rights come on in the next couple of weeks and tell us everything that they actually cover. So we're really excited about that.
It's a lot. So.
Well, like I said, we appreciate you being here, and today we're going to cover all things voting. It's really important for everyone to be involved in the voting system, but especially for individuals with disabilities. But essentially, we are electing individuals into Congress, no matter what it is, or state leaders, civic leaders, to be a megaphone for our voice. And we want to make sure that they take us seriously from the get-go. There's a saying that says nothing for us without us. That always rings true, but especially in policy. So if we want to get started in voting, what's the first step that we should take?
Well, the first thing you want to do is get registered to vote. And if you're over 18 and you live in Arkansas and you're an American citizen and you don't have a guardian, you can go ahead and get registered to vote. And to do that, you'll need a voter registration form, which is, it's an application you fill out, you put in some information, you send it back to the state. You can get that registration form either, you can get them all over, really. There's your county clerk's office. You can find it online at the Secretary of State's website. You can, a lot of the times libraries will have them, all kinds of places will have them just sort of out. If you absolutely can't find one, go ahead and give us a call at Disability Rights Arkansas and we'll mail you one. And then what you do is you got to get it turned back in 30 days before whatever election you want to vote in. And So you fill that out, and you can either mail it in to the address on the form itself has an address pre-printed on it, or you can deliver it back to your county clerk's office in person, and they'll get it processed. They'll send you a voter registration card that tells you, you're registered to vote. Here's where you go to vote. It'll give you the address of your polling place, and then you just show up and vote, or you can do a couple different options to vote, but we'll get to that later. But in the meantime, if you've sent in your voter registration application and you're not sure whether or not you're actually registered, what you can do is you can go online, and I believe it's voterview.org. You can go and check your registration status, or you can just call your county clerk's office and ask them, which is probably a little easier. But yeah, and then you're registered to vote and you're ready to go.
Wonderful.
And they will send you a card. You don't have to have that card with you when you go to vote.
Okay. So when you actually are registering to vote, do you need any form of identification?
No, not to get registered. You will need one when you go to vote.
Okay.
And there's different kinds of ID that you can use, and it's basically any government issued ID with a photo on it. So driver's license, ID card. I believe there's a special, sorry, I just had a weird thing pop up on my computer. I believe there's a special ID specifically for voting that you can get at no cost. Yeah, so that would be another thing to ask your county clerk about if you're having issues with having the proper ID for voting.
Okay. Now, can someone register before their 18th birthday and they actually hold on to that registration for them?
Yes, if you're going to be 18 by the time of the next election. So it's if you're 15 or 16 and you're raring to go, then you're still going to have to wait. But if let's say you're 17 now, your birthday's in August, and then the presidential election's coming up in November, you could absolutely register now.
Okay. So they'll actually hold on to that for you, so you're not going to be missing out on anything.
Yes.
Is there any type of deadlines for registration? Let's say that I wanted to get registered to vote, but I really wanted to vote in a certain election. Do I need to watch out for any dates?
30 days before the election is when you have to be registered by. And that's when you have to have the form returned. You have to have the form returned by 30 days before the election. It's not, they don't have to finish registering you, but you have to get the form to them.
Okay, so that's just my job to have that turned in 30 days before that election that I'm wanting to vote in. Okay. So you talked about different ways that I could fill that out on my own. Can I take that into my county clerk, or can I go to my county clerk, and if I have any questions, can I ask them about that?
Yes, you can always ask questions. You can have someone assist you with filling out the form as long as the information's accurate.
Okay.
And stuff like name, address, the other things they're going to ask for. Like, as long as that's accurate and the form gets turned in, you're going to be fine.
Wonderful. So I just wanted to make sure that our county clerk was there to assist us no matter what.
Yes.
Perfect.
And one other note, once you register, you're registered. You don't have to do it every election. Okay. You don't have to do it repeatedly. The one thing to remember is that if you change your address, because that'll change where you go for your polling place, then you're going to have to fill out a form again. And it's the same form. It's just there's a specific box for change of address. And you just fill that out and send it in like you did before, and they'll get you a card with your new polling place.
Okay. So what happens if we have a college student that is going off to college, but they still want to vote in the town that they grew up in? Is that okay if they do that?
Yes, they can just keep their registration at their hometown.
Okay, and there's no limit on that.
No, I don't believe so.
Okay, wonderful. I know I'm putting you on the hot seat. I'm sorry.
Well, I want to make sure I'm not just telling people the wrong thing, but I don't think there's a limit on that. Maybe if you're in that situation, double check.
Okay, we will. We'll call that county clerk and we'll figure it out.
Exactly. Yeah. In general, a good idea if you have any kind of voting questions is going to be call your county clerk, and you can always call disability rights too. We're always available to answer questions, but we might have to do some research on it, and the county clerk is hopefully going to know some of this stuff off the top of their head.
So When that voter issued ID card comes in, if there's any mistakes on there, do we need to call our county clerk and get that worked out?
Well, I think they're actually issued by the same folks that do driver's licenses. So it's going to
Okay.
be the Department of Finance and Administration. I think they would be the ones you would call about any issues with the card itself,
Mhm.
any errors like that. So yeah, that wouldn't be the county clerk.
Okay. So we will have to vote in a certain area. Is that true?
Yes, where you vote is it's broken up into polling precincts.
Okay.
And so depending on where you live, they try to give you a polling place that's going to be close to your house. And so, yeah, that's not everybody. Unless you live in a county that does vote centers.
Okay.
If your county does vote centers, then anyone can go and vote at any polling place in the county.
Okay.
And again, that's something you can find out through your county clerk, or they should actually publish this stuff in newspapers and local news websites and stuff.
Okay.
They should. They don't always do it, but you worst case, you always just go to the address that's going to be on your voter registration card, even if you're in a vote center county. They're gonna, but yeah, the vote centers it means that any polling place in the county you can go to, and a lot more counties in the state have gone to vote centers over the last couple of years. But yeah, when in doubt, go to the address on your registration card.
And we can always view that at voterview.com.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. And then if we can't get to that, if that's not accessible through the internet, we always can call that county clerk or call you guys if we have any questions. So that information is out there if we need it.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. That's really what we want to do here, is make sure that these resources are out here and these questions are getting answered, because there's a lot of times we don't even know the right questions to ask. We didn't even know that these were things that we should be wondering, thinking about, or anything like that, until we get in that moment, and then we don't know who to turn to.
Absolutely. And you can, if you kind of have questions, another place you can go is the Disability Rights Arkansas website. It's disabilityrightsar.org. We have a lot of links to stuff. We have some handouts and publications, like one sheets that we've put out to go over a few different aspects of voting, just kind of like the basics of it. We have a frequently asked questions document about voting, and then we also have some stuff about absentee ballots, which I'm sure we'll get to later. But yeah.
We definitely will. I think that's really the next thing that we need to get into, is exactly how to place your vote.
Okay, well, there's three main ways to go about voting. There's in-person voting, where you go on election day and you go to that polling place that they gave you the address for, and you go and get in line and you cast your vote at the machine. There's early voting, which I believe it's 2 weeks before election day, counties will open up early voting locations. And with those, it depends on the size of the county. It can be anywhere from one early voting location to, I want to say there's 9 in Pulaski County, but those are ones where anyone can go. And again, those work like the vote centers, where anybody can go to any early voting location.
Okay.
And you can go and cast your vote early, it's a good way sometimes to sort of beat crowds. And it's a little bit, it gives you a little bit more flexibility. The third way to vote in Arkansas is an absentee ballot. Arkansas doesn't have no excuse absentee voting, so there's only a few reasons why you can ask for an absentee ballot here in this state. If you're going to be unavoidably absent from the polling site on election day, so let's say you're planning a vacation or something.
Okay.
You can't attend due to illness or disability. If you're a member of the armed forces and you're deployed somewhere, or if you're a U.S. citizen who lives in Arkansas but you're temporarily living outside the country somewhere. Those are the reasons. Most people, it's going to be that second one, where you're unable to attend because of illness or disability. And the way that you can get an absentee ballot application, you contact your county clerk and they can mail you one, or you can go to the Secretary of State's website and print one off there.
Okay.
And the way that works is you fill out the application, and you want to, if you're going to do that, again, that's another thing you have to do 30 days before the election. And there's a few different deadlines for absentee ballots, and I'm worried that if I just start throwing them all out, it's going to get 30 days and then 7 days and this and that. But go to the Disability Rights Arkansas website. We have something explaining this on the website. But generally, what you do is you fill out that application, you send it in, and then they'll send you an absentee ballot for your polling precinct, because ballots are going to be different depending on what precinct you're in. And then you fill that out, and you can either mail it back in or you can return it in person to a county clerk, and they can count your vote that way.
Okay. So what we need to remember is there is time limits.
Yes,
so there are dates that we need to look at if that's something that we are going to want to partake in, is that absentee ballot.
There absolutely are, and I don't like I said, it gets a little bit. It's not. I just don't want to confuse anybody, because there really is. It's it depends on, are you returning it? Is someone returning it on your behalf, et cetera, et cetera? Are you mailing it? And it's I don't want to throw out a bunch of numbers and get people turned around, because.
Yeah. That's okay. We are actually going to have Miss Susan Inman come on this show, and she is going to go over absentee ballots in full. And she's actually going to show us how to fill one out and how to turn it back in, just like she does at the Advocacy Takes Action mock votes, just to make sure that we are all ready to fill one of those out if that's the way that we want to go.
That'll be excellent.
Yes. So we just want to make sure that we're giving everyone all the information that they need to be ready to make the choice when the time comes.
Yeah.
And then we talked about early voting, and then the day of, which is very, very busy. But what about accessibility at the polling sites? I know part of your job is actually going around and making sure that polling sites are accessible for every person that wants to partake in voting. Is that correct?
Yes, under the law. Under the law, polling sites have to be accessible for people with disabilities. And so part of what we do is go around and check out polling sites and try to work with counties to sort of either find suitable polling sites, or if they can't change the location, then we try to, help them with making accommodations and that sort of thing. A few things people might need to know as far as accommodations go, if they're doing in-person voting, is if you're in line and you're somebody who, for whatever reason, you can't stand in a line for an hour or however long it's going to be, you can request to be moved to the front of the line, and they will do that. You just find a poll worker and ask. And the poll workers are generally very nice people. They're volunteering their time. Don't be afraid to talk to them and ask them for what you need. Once you get in to vote, you can bring somebody with you to assist you with voting. If you think you're going to have issues with filling out the ballot or working the machine, you can bring somebody with you to help. And that can be anybody who's not, there's a couple restrictions on this. I think it's your boss, the head of your employment union, or a candidate on the ballot. You can't bring any of those three with you to help you vote. But you can bring anybody else. And if you don't have anybody you feel comfortable bringing with you to vote, or if you just, you're in a hurry and you can't make schedules match up, then you can ask poll workers to help you vote, assist you with casting your vote. And what they'll do in that case is they will give you two poll workers. And basically it's one poll worker to help you vote and another one to make sure that poll worker isn't telling you how to vote or changing your vote.
Okay, so just for those safety reasons.
Yeah, it's to make sure that your vote is your own vote and you're not being kind of unduly influenced. Right. It's the same reason as not allowing, candidates on the ballot or your boss or somebody to come in and assist you with voting. But generally, there should be a machine set up that can do, with a headset that does audio voting for folks who may or may not have vision difficulties. There's all kinds of accommodations that should be in place so that anybody can vote. And if you get to your polling place and there's an access issue, either just architectural, you can't get in, they don't have a ramp, they don't have, if it's something like that, or if it's something where you can get in but they don't have the right machinery set up, or for whatever reason you can't cast your vote, I always recommend bringing, 3 different phone numbers with you when you go to vote. You want to bring your county clerk's number, you want to bring the Secretary of State's number, and you want to bring disability rights number. And usually someone at one of those 3 places should be able to fix things and get you to be able to vote.
Okay.
But yeah, also I would recommend kind of going over the elections. And I mean, I would recommend staying informed generally because it's just good policy. But I would recommend sort of looking at the elections, looking at any ballot measures that might be, because those tend to be pretty long and they're not always written as reader friendly as I might like. So you want to kind of have a good idea of what's going to be on the ballot beforehand, and you can go look at a sample ballot. I can't remember the website, but I'm sure if you Google sample ballot Arkansas, you can find it. But you can
Was
also.
this on Voter View this year?
I think so.
I have a link to it. Yes, you taught me that this year, and this was the first year I got to do it, and I was so happy. My anxiety gets so bad when I'm going to do something new for the first time. This was the first year that I was able to partake in that. I love voting.
I think I was smarter before I started working from home, but I believe you if you say I taught you that. But yeah, go and find a sample ballot and look at that, and you can, go through that and you can mark that and, with your choices, and you can bring that to the polling place with you, because you can't, or notes of any kind. You can bring those in so that you remember, because like I said, a lot of the times those ballot measures, they're written in a way that confuses people, and that's everybody, not just people with disabilities. They don't write those. A lot of them, they don't write them for ease of use. So there's, you can have something to bring in with you to make sure you don't forget sort of what you wanted to vote for, and that's totally okay. And if anybody tells you can't, again, call your county clerk, call the Secretary of State, call DRA. But when you get there, and if there's an issue with if the poll worker there, and again, poll workers are very nice, they're volunteers, they're there to help you vote. But if there's a problem and they're telling you you can't vote, and this is rare, for whatever reason, if they're telling you that, oh, you're not on our voting rolls, you don't show up as registered, or if they're just, if you're a person with a disability and they're deciding on their own that you're, for whatever reason, not competent to vote, always ask for a provisional ballot. Don't get mad and leave. Don't get mad at all if you can help it, even though sometimes you probably should. But always ask for a provisional ballot and fill it out. A provisional ballot is a ballot that they give you that is then you fill it out and they set it aside and put it in a sealed envelope, and then they give it to the county election commission, who then look at it later and approve the vote. So they'll decide whether or not it's going to count. And then you'll get a notice of whether or not your vote counted and why.
Okay.
You'll get written notice, usually a couple days after the election, but it sort of depends on how much trouble they're having with the election at large, but usually a few days. But whatever you do, if someone's trying to stop you from voting, don't vote, don't leave without filling out a provisional ballot, because if you leave, then you got nothing. Then you're just not voting. So yeah, that's another reason why people might be turned away, is the guardianship issue that I mentioned earlier.
Yeah, so you're really checking off all of our questions. You're just going through.
Told you I had notes, but yeah, the guardianship issue is basically in Arkansas, if you were placed under a guardianship after, I always get this wrong, I want to say October 2001, but it was sometime in 2001. Mm-hmm. If you were placed on, we have a question.
Tanner, he's actually asking about the guardianship issues right now. He wants to know, so if someone has a legal guardian, can they still vote even though they have a legal guardian and are over the age of 18? So you're hitting the hot button topic right now.
Unfortunately, no. If you got that legal guardian after 2001, you have to go and petition the court to have your voting rights reinstated. They just automatically take them away. As a side note, for anyone that's getting a guardianship put in place now or plans to in the future, you can, at the time it's put in place, have your right to vote reserved so that you don't lose it, but you have to do it when it's being put into place. And because this is something that not a lot of people know about, even people who, I've talked to people who've gone and got, guardianships over their kids or whoever, and I'll tell them about the voting thing and they're shocked because nobody ever mentions it. But when you're doing it, you want to make sure that if you want to vote, you need to preserve those rights. But if that ship's already sailed and you have a guardian and you want to go vote, you and the guardian, or just you, really, you can do it over the objections of the guardian, which is a whole nother thing. But you have to go and petition the court to have your guardianship right restored. And you want to go to the court where the guardianship was put into place. And that's definitely something that Disability Rights Arkansas can help you, because I know dealing with the court system in general can be kind of scary. Okay. But yeah, if that's something you want to do, that's definitely something that we can help you with. Part of what we do is provide legal services at no cost, and we would love to help somebody with this. So, yeah, but that is something you need to know if you have a guardianship. And a lot of the times, I'm honestly not even sure if poll workers know. I don't think it's something that gets checked. Mm-hmm. But it's something they can use to disqualify your vote after the fact, even if they do let you in to vote. So,
do you get notified that your vote was not counted?
No, I don't believe so. Not for that reason.
Okay. So this is definitely something that Disability Rights Arkansas can help challenge.
Yes.
Okay, and then we'll be going back to the same court that they actually addressed the guardianship issue with.
Mm-hmm, because you're going back and you're changing the original guardianship order, basically.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Is this something that individuals can contact their representatives and their senators about if they want to address this?
It absolutely is. And this is part of why voting is so important, because this change was originally what happened. The way this worked before 2001 was if you got a guardianship, you could remove voting rights, but they had to specifically petition to remove voting rights. It didn't happen automatically. And then after 2001, the legislature made the change to sort of flip it to the opposite of that, where you automatically lose the rights and then have to petition to have them restored. So this is a great example of why who's in the state legislature matters, because they'll make decisions that will affect the voting rights of people with disabilities.
And it's blanketed for everyone. It's not just a few people that are having guardianship taken over.
No, this is every guardianship.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, that's definitely something you should contact your state representatives about.
Definitely.
And the governor. Why not?
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, in the meantime, if that's something that applies to you and you want to challenge it, go ahead and call Disability Rights Arkansas and we can try to help you out.
Wonderful. I just want to back up just for a couple of seconds. When you guys are out at the polls and you see something that isn't accessible and you have to bring it to the attention, what type of attitude are you met with?
Most of the time, it's actually pretty pleasant. I've probably contacted most of the county clerks in the state, if not all of them, at one point or another. And there's 75 counties in the state. I can count the bad experiences I've had on one hand. They want people to vote. They want people to go and vote in these elections. So they're not, a lot of the times when I've brought this stuff to their attention, it's either it's stuff they haven't thought about, or it's things where they know there's a problem, but they don't know what kind of temporary modifications they can make, and there's not enough money, or there's only, it's a lot of the time in the more rural counties, there's only so many, public buildings available to use as polling places.
Okay.
And so they're kind of trying to strike a balance between having polling places where people can reach them and having enough polling places so that people aren't, driving 40 miles to vote.
Okay.
And so usually, when I call them and talk to them, and I can give them suggestions for temporary modifications, things you can do to, fix doorknobs temporarily, or temporary ramps, even in some cases creating sort of temporary parking areas for, some polling places where there's nothing but a dirt parking lot. But largely they're pretty positive and open about to it. They want people to vote. And I mean, by law, they have to let, they have to be up to snuff for people to vote. But also I think a lot of them really do. They find out there's an issue and they're kind of surprised and they want to fix it. So it's not, so if you're calling your county clerk or your county election commission, don't be afraid to do that either. They're your county, representatives. They're there to help you, and most of them are happy to help. As most of them. So yeah.
Really, when we know better, we do better. So
Exactly.
That's why individuals really need to be able to speak up. That's where that self-advocacy comes in, really championing for yourself. So if you need something when you're inside a polling site, speak up and ask for it. If it's not accessible, you make that phone call. If you need assistance, you have to ask for it because no one's going to ask if they can assist you. So that's really where that self-advocacy comes in. And with this information, we're able to lay the foundation for self-confidence and really be able to give them the strong resources to be the self-advocate that they really need to be. That way they can have and demand everything that they need and want.
Absolutely. And a lot of these, like I've said it a couple times now, but a lot of these folks, they just want to help. The people working in the polls, they're volunteering their time. They want to help people to vote. They're there to help. Don't be afraid to ask them for help if you need it. And, we've also, disability rights, we've gone out to a few counties and we've talked to poll workers and we've done trainings for poll workers to kind of help them out. We've produced guides for poll workers for helping folks with disabilities. So we're kind of doing our best to get the message out there. A lot of these folks, they want to hear the message. They're interested in how they can do better, or just anything they can do to change to help people vote. So that's kind of don't be intimidated or afraid because they're there to help.
Wonderful. And this stuff can be scary and it can be intimidating if you've never done it. But hopefully, between this information and our Advocacy Takes Action mock votes, where you can actually practice placing your ballot, we will cut down on some of that intimidation and we'll have so many more new voters going out and actually using their vote as their voice. We're really excited about it.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. The more people get out and vote, the better. Voting is super important, and it's sometimes I think we tend to kind of see it as either sports teams fighting or because there's a lot of that these days, but I think there's also just we tend to sort of see it in the abstract, and you can be told a million times vote, it's important, it's your right, and it is important and it is your right, but it's in non-abstract terms, it's it's going to affect things like housing, education, employment, medical care, which is important these days. All kinds of things are affected by your vote. And so everybody should get out and do it.
Definitely, 100%. I think that we are a people that value our personal choice and being able to make choice. And voting is all about doing that. We have the power to choose. That's really where our power comes from. And with our vote, we have the power to choose someone that's going to help us get dignified jobs with fair wage, cleaner water, cleaner air, an appropriate education in public schools. The list goes on. A better price on our medication. Better price on food, the housing that you talked about. We have the power to choose that. We have the power to elect someone that's going to help us make that choice, to be our voice. And so our vote is our voice for our choice, but it only counts if it can be counted. So we have to place that vote.
Absolutely. And the more sorry, one thing that you want to do is remember, it's not just about the big general elections with, we've got the presidential election coming up in November, but remember, it's sort of the small local elections matter too. Things like school boards and zoning and all that stuff matters. And that's a lot of either these ballot measures you vote on or the people you're electing into office are going to be making decisions about where public funds go. So if you want your beliefs and priorities to be reflected in the actions of your government, you have to go vote. And if you want to be able to complain when things aren't being directed the way you want them to, you also have to go vote, because if you don't vote, I have no sympathy for you. Anyway, yeah, sorry about that.
He's got to get that off his chest every day.
But yeah, what else?
I think we've really covered it. I think we've covered our dates. I think we've laid a really good foundation for everyone to get started. Why don't you give us disability rights contact information one more time? I know you've thrown it in there just a little bit, but make sure you give that out to everyone, and I'll put it in the comment section when we post this video.
All right. You want to go to our website. We have a lot of materials and a lot of links to helpful materials. That's disabilityrightsar.org. And then we're on Facebook. We are on Twitter. I think that's it, but there might be more social media out there. But definitely Facebook and Twitter. And then you can always call us, and that number is 1-800-482-1174. And right now, everybody's kind of working from home a little bit, but we are still taking calls. If nobody answers, leave a message and someone will check that voicemail and people will get back to you. So, we might be a little bit slower these days, but we're still taking calls and we're still open for business. So if you need anything, give us a call.